The Cambodian genocide was one of the largest genocides in history. The Khmer Rouge, led by the communist Pol Pot, massacred 2 million people. The Khmer Rouge targeted ethnic minorities, especially Chinese, Vietnamese, and Muslim Cham, of whom an estimated 80% were killed. Much has been said about the brutal crimes committed by the Khmer Rouge, but what is less discussed is the resistance to the genocide and the brave people who stood their ground in defiance of the destructive communist regime. The Khmer Rouge faced particularly fierce resistance from the Cham Muslims of Cambodia. Prior to the Khmer Rouge, the Muslim Cham people were Cambodia's largest minority. There were over 100 mosques across Cambodia, as well as Quranic schools where religious instruction was given in Arabic and Malay. The Constitution of Democratic Kampuchea initially stated that everyone was free to believe in their faith and practice their religion. However, this pretense of tolerance came to an end on May 20th, 1975, when the Khmer Rouge vowed to eliminate all religions. In 1975, after the Cham people refused to abandon their religion, language and culture, the new Pol Pot government turned its attention to the Chams with a vengeance. On an island in the Mekong River, the authorities attempted to collect all copies of the Quran. The villagers refused to give up their holy books and staged a protest. Thereafter, Khmer Rouge troops fired into the crowd. The Chams then took up swords and knives and slaughtered half a dozen troops. The retaliating armed forces massacred many and pillaged their homes. They evacuated the island and razed the village, and then turned to a neighboring village, massacring 70% of the inhabitants. Soon after, the Pol Pot army forcibly emptied all 113 Cham villages in the country. As a result, about 100,000 Chams were massacred and the survivors were dispersed into small groups of several families. Islamic schools and religion, as well as the Cham language, were banned. Thousands of Muslims were physically forced to eat pork. Many were murdered for refusing. Of the 113 community leaders, only 20 survived in 1979. Only 25 of their 226 deputies survived, and all but 38 of about 300 religious teachers at Cambodia's Quranic schools perished. The Khmer Rouge also destroyed mosques or used them for other purposes such as communal dining halls, storehouses, or facilities for pigs. The Khmer Rouge also attacked the Cham's traditional modes of living, and communities were dispersed to live communally among Khmer, and traditional family structures were prohibited. This restricted the Cham's ability to instruct their children in religious practices and forced them to abandon the traditional familial roles prescribed by their faith. Women were pressured to marry Khmer men in an attempt to force assimilation through marriage. However, despite such persecution and despite such violent massacres, the Cham people continued to rebel and fight until the last drop of blood. In December 1974, a large group of Cham Muslim soldiers from the Communist Party of Cambodia defected from the army and fled into the forests, where they began an armed rebellion against the Khmer Rouge. Two particularly well-known uprisings occurred in the district of Krok Chamar in 1975 in two separate villages. One of these rebellions was led by No Min, who later escaped Cambodia after the rebellion was crushed.